Today is day 5. I am in the forests near Crater Lake. So I'm about 20 minutes away from Crater Lake, 20-30 minutes. As you can tell, I'm surrounded by lots of trees, and it's actually pretty great. I'll give you a brief tour. 1 second. Ta-da. So there were there's an attendant nearby. Most of the campsites that are either run federally or run by the state, they usually have some type of attendant that stays for the whole season. And they're here to make sure that people don't burn down the place, but also to make sure that people pay, and make sure that there are any problems that they're taken care of. So that's kind of a cool idea. And I always think about, like, why would someone ever come? Why would someone ever come and stay here for a whole summer? But this is kind of a delayed start to my day. It's around 11:30 a.m. I'm usually out on the road by 10. It's just harder to get motivated when it's just beautiful. It's perfect temperature. I'm underneath some trees that are just protecting me from the sun. Just no complaints, but at the same time, getting motivated to move because there's just so much more to see is also pretty hard. I took down some notes. Oh, so there's a few things I wanted to talk about. It's really easy, especially in engineering, to kind of forget the things that you've worked on so hard. Like, I've talked to engineers that have moved on to something different, maybe moved on to hardware or software, and they were like, "Yeah, I did that one thing, the VLSI thing. I made an adder or something." It's like, maybe a bad example, like someone who did web programming and they worked on a website and then they came back to it a year later, like, how did I do this? And the only reason why I was thinking of it is that the owner of the pizza place that I stayed at last night for dinner had basically said the same thing, and he was kind of, even though he was using something much simpler, maybe to me, but for someone who doesn't build websites at all, there's this certain amount of kind of relearning that has to happen, and that's why it's kind of useful in this kind of more globalized, open economy where people can kind of be specialized in certain things. It's job security. So some certain people are good at certain things, other people are not, and that's where you can add a lot of value to someone if they have that need, and the need is there. The need is apparent. Even with websites like Squarespace, you still have people who really don't care. They just want to get their site up and running to the point where they don't have to worry about it. So that was one thing. I thought that was interesting. I feel like that's a pretty good sign that there's job security in the future for all of us, as long as you're kind of specialized or you have the knowledge at the kind of forefront of your mind about what the knowledge of something that can add value to someone else. So, and the last thing was just kind of fear. I feel one thing I was thinking about last night was, is fear just another voice inside of you that you have to kind of tame? Or, I mean, part of it's kind of this, like, deep emotion, but at the same time, I feel like for someone who spends more time in their head, it's probably easier to get afraid. But at the same time, if you have the tools to be more mindful and kind of avoid that whole situation, you can kind of stave off that fear a little bit. It's just like these little things that, like, I'm camping in the middle of nowhere by myself. Are there bears? Are there things going to kill me? Probably, but what's the likeliness of that? For instance, I rolled into this campground late last night. I was looking around, I was like, well, where am I going to hang my food? I have no idea. But then I walked over and I saw there was trash cans just kind of open, like just regular trash cans, which any bear would decimate. So that was a good sign that most likely there aren't any bears. The most wildlife I heard or interacted with was there's a deer kind of across the field behind my campground, and I saw it poking out. I was like, what is that? Oh, it's a baby deer. And then I heard some coyotes this morning as well. But 10 bears didn't bum rush my tent, try to eat me for dinner. These things are just kind of things you kind of make up in your mind, and then all of a sudden it's a thing, but it's not reality. Everything is kind of impermanent. My thoughts are impermanent. So those are my kind of two things I wanted to talk about this morning. I'm going to get on the road, also contemplating whether or not I head up to Portland. My friends are going to be up there this weekend, so it would be an interesting kind of interesting timing to see if I can at least spend a day or two there with them, but we'll see what happens. I'm still, at any point I can cut and run and get there within half a day. It's only about 4 hours away. And if I take it slow, it's about 4 days away. Depends on what I find along the way. So that's about it for now. This one's a little bit longer of an update, but some things to think about. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.